Once upon a time, not too long ago, Europe looked vastly different than what it looks like today. The British, Scottish and Irish Isles used to be connected to not only mainland Europe, but Scandinavia as well. This landmass was known as Doggerland, and it was a lush forest land that was home to a variety of different animal species. Humans called this landmass home for hundreds of thousands of years until disaster struck, wiping away what once was. My name is Kaylee. Today we're going to look into Doggerland and the later known Dogger Bank. And this is sometimes dubbed by scholars as the lost European Atlantis. So dive right in with me. To make sense of this landmass, we need to look back way further than we usually do on this channel. As you may or may not know, during a glacial period the temperatures are very cold, sea levels drop and glaciers grow. During an interglacial period the temperature rises, ice sheets and glaciers melt, and thus the sea levels rise. The Cromerian stage started nearly 1 million years ago. This stage in the Pleistocene glacial history of northwestern Europe consisted of multiple glacial and interglacial periods, in which the landmass we now know as Doggerland would get submerged underwater and rise above the water multiple times, until the Elster glaciation occurred, which is better known as the Elster Ice Age. The oldest remnants of occupation in northwestern Europe are found in Haysborough, on the northeast coast of Norfolk. Fossilized human footprints of nearly 1 million years old have been discovered in the clay of an ancient estuary along the coast. These footprints are the oldest human footprints discovered outside of Africa. They most likely belong to the pioneer man, that's better known under the name Homo antecessor. The brain from the pioneer man was smaller than the size of a Homo sapien. Bones found in Atapuerca in Spain and the footprints discovered at Haysborough have led researchers to suggest that the average male height was around 173 centimeters and the average female height was around 168 centimeters. Bones, flint tools and other plant and animal remains have been discovered in the area during excavations as well. Among these was a molar from a southern mammoth, a species of mammoth that went extinct around 800,000 years ago. During the Elster Ice Age, some 500,000 years ago, the different ice sheets covering Scandinavia, the British Isles and Northern Europe started to connect. There is no more evidence for Homo antecessor living in the area in this time period, but in its place came Homo heidelbergensis and the early Neanderthals. It's unclear if they are descendants from Homo antecessor, but it is clear that the brain size of Homo heidelbergensis was almost as big as Homo sapiens. The most grown part of the brain was the neocortex, the largest part of the brain's cerebral cortex, where the higher cognitive functions originate from. For instance, it's thought to be responsible for sensory perception, emotion, episodic memory, and thoughts, to name a few examples. Neanderthals and Homo heidelbergensis were at the top of the food chain in this time period. This is evident from discovered bones with cut marks from flint tools, with hyena chew marks on top of the cut marks. They were discovered in Boxgrove in South England. A fact that you might have never known is that up until 500,000 years ago, the chalk cliffs at Dover in South England were connected to the chalk cliffs at Calais in France, and this served as a land bridge for animals and humans. As the interglacial period started, the meltwater from this massive ice sheet created a river between the ice and the land bridge. Eventually, the water in the lake got so high it would overflow, creating a waterfall over the land bridge, and as time went by, the gap where the waterfall would flow became bigger as it eroded more. Many artifacts from this interglacial period are found. For instance, in the Netherlands, they found flint tools near Woerden. At Clacton in East England, they discovered the tapered end of a spear dating from 400,000 years ago. And in Germany, at Schöningen, they discovered numerous bone and wooden tools, including 2-meter-long spears made from spruce wood dating from approximately 300,000 years ago. The first traces of the use of fire can be found dating as far back as 400,000 years ago. These traces can be found at fireplaces in Beech's Pit in East Anglia and Menes Dragan in Bretagne. Fire brought with it a new way of life. Not only did it bring warmth, protection, and a new array of edible food with the possibility of cooking, it brought light after the sun went down, and it must have strengthened social bonds, stimulated communication and language. After the Elster glaciation ended around 300,000 years ago, the Salian glaciation started, and once again an ice sheet covered the North Sea, but this time further south. When this started to melt, it formed another lake, which would again erode and cut through the remnants of the land bridge between Dover and Calais. Around 250,000 years ago, Neanderthals arrived near Maastricht in the valley of the Maas River in the southeast of the Netherlands. Artifacts found here are made from flint, and it's discovered they lived here in small encampments. Eventually, approximately 130,000 years ago, the Salian ice sheet had completely melted and we entered the interglacial period of the Eemian period, which lasted some 15,000 years. During this time, the sea levels were between 6 and 9 meters higher than present day. Of course, as you may have guessed, this warm period was again followed by a glacial period, called the Weichselian glaciation, which lasted from 115,000 years ago up until 11,700 years ago. In this time period, the area became a unique landscape not found on the planet since, called the Mammoth Steppe. A variety of animals roamed the area. Among these were woolly mammoths, cave hyenas, reindeer, bison, horses, European cave lions, wolves, brown bears, woolly rhinoceros, and saber-toothed cats. Alder, birch and pine trees were found all over the landscape stretching from Western Europe all the way to Canada. The oldest fossil of a Neanderthal in the Netherlands was discovered in Zeeland in 2001. A shell sucker off the coast had picked it up, and eventually it was discovered by amateur paleontologists who looked for artifacts in the heaps of collected materials on land. It was discovered to be a skull fragment from a Neanderthal man living between 100,000 and 40,000 years ago. The man got the nickname Krijn. In the fragment, there is a hollow mark near the eyebrow arch, which was created by a subcutaneous tumor. In this time period, once again, Neanderthals were on the top of the food chain in Europe. They weren't the brutes as they were portrayed for so long, but in reality they were intelligent and had the know-how to create a glue from birch bark. Here you can see an example of a spear with the birch pitch gluing the spearhead to the wooden shaft. An incredible find of a flint tool with a piece of birch pitch glued to it was discovered at the Zandmotor beach in the Netherlands in 2016 by Willy van Wingerden. This tool dates from approximately 50,000 years ago and is a perfect example of the ingenuity of Neanderthals and one of the most incredible finds ever made in the Netherlands, as there are only 5 similar finds discovered in the entirety of Europe. These Neanderthals are referred to in the Netherlands and Germany as the leaf-tip group. They were the last Neanderthals in northwestern Europe, characterized by their leaf-tip tools that were constructed partially bifacial. It's thought this group of Neanderthals started creating their tools in this fashion due to the influence of modern humans that started to settle in the area around 45,000 years ago. During the last glacial maximum in the Weichselian, some 33,000 years ago, an ice sheet once again started to cover the North Sea. Around 26,500 years ago, this ice sheet covered most of the British Isles, Scandinavia and parts of Northern Europe, as you can see here. The climate in northwestern Europe most likely became uninhabitable for humans during this time, as there are no traces of humans living here found between 27,000 and 14,500 years ago. Around 20,000 years ago, the climate started to become warmer for a while. During this period of approximately 2,000 years of climate warming up, the sea level that was approximately 125 meters lower than present day started to rise. The water from the ice sheet needed to go somewhere, of course. This is still evident in the contours of the current seabed in the North Sea. The water drainage flowed from East Anglia in England southeast towards the Hoek van Holland in South Holland, the Netherlands. The water did not go across the Strait of Dover as was long assumed. The area that was once covered under the ice sheet became a low-lying tundra with the sea level approximately 60 meters lower than modern times. The older, driest climatic cooling event started around 18,000 years ago and lasted until approximately 14,690 years ago, when we entered the Bulling-Allerud interstadial. After 12,000 years without a trace of human occupation in northwestern Europe, it was the start of the Bulling-Allerud warming that showed the first signs of humans occupying the area again. The people responsible for the incredible cave art in Spain and France, known as the Magdalenian culture, started to settle in the area we now know as Doggerland and Northern Europe. The Hamburg culture and the Creswellian culture are related to the Magdalenian cultures and settled in the areas of North and Mid-Netherlands, North Germany, Denmark, the south of Sweden, Poland, and the UK. This warm period lasted approximately 2,000 years, and during this time Doggerland flourished and temperatures were almost as high as the temperatures we currently experience. Fun fact, the oldest Northern European Paleolithic cave art was discovered in Derbyshire in a limestone gorge known as the Creswell Crags. These carvings are found in the Church Hole Cave, and they depict red deer among many other things. A total of 80 carvings have been discovered here, and they are dated to be from between 15,000 and 13,000 years ago. Another remarkable find found here is known as the Robin Hood cave horse. This is a fragment of a rib engraved with a horse's head. Sea levels around this time were approximately 80 meters lower than present day. As the climate in the Doggerland area warmed up, the reindeer started to travel north, where the landscape was still grassy, open and tundra-like. The Doggerland landscape grew pine, birch, juniper, oak and hazel trees, and there was an influx of different animal species like red deer, wild boars, aurochs, moose, horses, beavers and geese roaming the land. In northern Germany, the hunter-gatherers hunting the moose in this time period are referred to as the moose hunters, although they are most well known under the name of the Federmesser culture. This culture is characterized by their flint arrowheads that look like thin quill knives. These knives are found all over, from the United Kingdom in the west to Ukraine in the east and northern France in the south. The diversity of the sites where the artifacts are found show that humans settled in shorter and longer occupied encampments. They've discovered numerous small encampments where flint tools were created. The Federmesser culture were very mobile, but returned to specific places during the different seasons. In February 2004, bones were fished up along the Brown Ridge in the North Sea. Among these was a metatarsal bone from an auroch or bison that had incredibly intricate carvings on it. It was long thought that it would have been an artifact from the Mesolithic era, but radiocarbon dating concluded this piece to have been created during the Bulling-Allerud interstadial, approximately between 13,480 and 13,285 years ago. You can clearly see on this picture the V-shaped decorations that have been carved on the bone fragment. They lived in prosperity in the Doggerland area, with temperatures similar to today's climate. Unfortunately, their luck was short-lived. Disaster struck 12,900 years ago when the Lagersee volcano located in Germany erupted. The blast was so strong that no tree stood upright within 4 kilometers of the volcano. The plume would have reached a height of approximately 40 kilometers, and the initial eruption lasted for about 10 hours. Although the activity of the volcano lasted for several months, producing pyroclastic currents that covered up entire valleys up to 10 kilometers away with tephra. Near the crater, the tephra deposits can be as thick as 60 meters, and even 5 kilometers away from the location of the volcano, the tephra deposits are about 10 meters thick. All plants and animals in a radius of approximately 60 kilometers around the volcano must have died because of this blast. Ash from the volcano fell down to Earth in a radius of 300,000 square kilometers, from France to Poland and from northern Italy to Sweden. Even at the bottom of the North Sea where Doggerland now resides, they have discovered pumice fragments from the blast. The Vedermesser culture seemed to have disappeared quickly from the area after this disaster unfolded. Approximately 100 years after the Lagersee volcanic eruption, 12,800 years ago, the Younger Dryas started and returned the climate to glacial conditions. The eruption has been discussed as a possible cause for the start of the Younger Dryas, although a new improved dating of the start of the Younger Dryas published in 2021 now suggests there might have been 200 years between the eruption and the start of the Younger Dryas. It might not have been the actual cause, but I personally do still believe in cause and effect. The eruption might have made it easier for the climate to drastically change in a time span of either 100 or 200 years. In less than a decade, temperatures dropped by 15 degrees Celsius in Northern Europe. To give an example, the average temperatures in England dropped to approximately -5 degrees Celsius. Ice sheets and glaciers expanded once again, and the Arctic cold and dry climate once again returned to Europe. In English literature, this period is known as the Big Freeze, and it lasted for approximately 1200 years. Another fun fact to note, the Older Dryas, Oldest Dryas and Younger Dryas got their names from a plant that only grows in cold climates, Dryas octopetala. Large quantities of its pollen were found in cores dating from these cold spells as the once luscious forests were replaced by tundra. In the tundra-like environment, we see a new group of nomadic hunter-gatherers emerge, the Arendsburg culture. Many bows and arrows can be found all over Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, the north of France and the east of England. Researchers have suggested that the higher grounds of the Ardennes would have most likely been the place for the people to settle during the summers, and the low-lying countries, including Doggerland, would have been the winter hunting grounds. Rivers were most likely the most important routes for these people to migrate between the summer and winter grounds. During the Younger Dryas, the sea level in the North Sea was approximately 120 meters lower than present day. But after almost 1200 years of glacial conditions, the Younger Dryas came to an abrupt end. Within less than 50 years, the climate warmed up and the Holocene started. Because the climate warmed quite abruptly, the ice sheet and glaciers melted at a rapid rate. Sea level started to rise quickly. At the start of the Holocene, around 11,650 years ago, the sea level was 85 meters lower than present day. But within 3,000 years, that level would rise 60 meters. That is a 2-meter rise per century. Around 9,000 years ago, Doggerland started to submerge as sea levels kept rising, and eventually, after 500 years of rising sea levels, Doggerland was no more. Only a remnant from the Dogger Hills, known as the island of Dogger Bank, survived above the water. During the early part of the Holocene, in the age known as the Boreal, many plants grew in the area. Among these were pine, birch, willow, alder and juniper trees, tabby grasses, blueberries and herbs. The animals that roamed the area were elk, brown bears and red deer, who would mostly live in the forests and near the rivers that were rich in salmon and trout. 8,500 years ago, around 6500 BCE, the large glacial lake Agassiz in North America that was filled with glacial meltwater started to almost completely drain. This made global sea levels rise another 1 to 2.8 meters. It's suggested that this event may account for the flood myths of prehistoric cultures, including the biblical flood tale. The hunter-gatherers in the area seemed to flourish near the coast, where they would hunt seals, collect shellfish, and whales would wash ashore at times. They also flourished in the extended wetlands, where there was an abundance of swans, geese, migratory birds, pike, eel, and sturgeon. They would create canoes and paddles from linden trees that grew in the area. Willow trees and red dogwood were perfect for the weaving of traps, while reed was perfect to use as a ground and roof cover of their huts. Here you can see an example of such a canoe. This is the Canoe van Pesse, which might be the oldest boat discovered in the entire world. This canoe has been dated to have been constructed between 8040 and 7510 BCE. It measures 298 centimeters long and 44 centimeters wide and was cut out of a single piece of red pine log. Marks from flint and antler tools are still present in the cavity of the boat. It was discovered in 1955 during the construction of the Dutch A28 motorway. As they were digging to remove the peat bog, a crane operator discovered the canoe. Doggerland would meet yet another disaster before it disappeared under the water forever. 3 large submarine landslides known as the Storegga Slides occurred between 6225 and 6170 BCE. This triggered large tsunamis in the North Sea and North Atlantic Ocean. In Scotland, traces of a tsunami have been discovered through deposited sediment up to 80 kilometers inland and 4 meters above current sea levels. Here you can see an example of this evidence in Scotland as a grey upper layer bracketed by peat, which are the dark brown layers. Before or around the time of the second Storegga slide, there was still some land near the coasts of England, Scotland, the Netherlands and Denmark that extended beyond the areas that are submerged in modern times. The second slide had a catastrophic impact on the Mesolithic inhabitants of the coastal areas, submerging the coastlines as we know them in modern times. Approximately around 6150 BCE, Dogger Bank became submerged under the sea as well due to the effect of the Storegga slides. Dogger Bank now measures approximately 260 kilometers long and 100 kilometers wide and now lies between 15 and 36 meters below sea level, which is approximately 20 meters higher when compared to the surrounding seabed. Another fun fact to note, Doggerland and Dogger Bank got its name from the 17th century Dutch fishing boats known as doggers, who often fished in the area of the Dogger Bank. This was very rich in fishing grounds, with cod and herring being caught in large quantities. There is quite a number of shipwrecks that can be found on the bank as well. The area of Dogger Bank is rich in ancient artifacts. Among these are remains of mammoths and rhinoceros, large amounts of Moor peat and Paleolithic hunting tools. The youngest artifact found at Dogger Bank is a Mesolithic antler or bone tool dating from 6050 BCE. The Mesolithic inhabitants of Scandinavia, Great Britain and the Netherlands stopped living a nomadic steppe lifestyle, as there was no need to keep traveling from one place to another during the changes of the seasons. They still traveled in small groups, but much shorter distances, as their surroundings were filled with forests and rivers with great biodiversity. Their tools started to change as well. They started to create smaller and more refined flint knives, arrows and spearheads. A real eye-opener into the lives of these Mesolithic inhabitants was discovered in 1997 by the discovery of 2 encampments in the higher dunes in a swampy area of Hardingsveld in the Netherlands. These encampments are incredibly well preserved due to the quick deposit of peat and clay, making the conditions excellent for preservation. These encampments date from between 5500 and 5000 BCE. In one of these encampments, archaeologists discovered the oldest burial in the Netherlands, dubbed Treintje. It was a treasure trove of artifacts as well. Tools made from bone, wood and antlers, paddles, a bow and a 5.5 meter long canoe made from linden wood were discovered, as well as pieces of traps and fish nets. Most Mesolithic artifacts in the Netherlands are discovered along the coast. While there have been some artifacts found in North Holland, like this flint tool that you see on screen here, most artifacts are found in South Holland. I will most likely create an entire video of all the discovered artifacts found in the Netherlands from this particular time period, as it's simply just too much to put in this one video. But as you've seen throughout the video, I've already shown some of the artifacts. Eventually, the Mesolithic people in the Netherlands made way for the funnel beaker culture. They are responsible for the creation of the Dutch dolmens from the glacial erratics that were deposited during the last ice ages. About a year ago, I've made a video about 2 of the 54 Dutch dolmens. I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. Doggerland may have disappeared, but it's absolutely not forgotten. In all actuality, it's gained more popularity over the last years than in the decades prior. Fishermen keep finding fossils in their nets, and a research boat goes out to sea regularly to investigate and research the submerged ancient landscape of Doggerland. On a daily basis, people will scour the beaches in the Netherlands as they search for remnants of this lost land, and I'm sure the same is done in England, Denmark and other places. All these finds have been incredibly important to the research and understanding of the ancient world and the inhabitants of Doggerland. There's been an exhibit at the National Museum of Antiquities in the Netherlands, better known as the Rijksmuseum van Oudheden in Leiden. A few weeks ago, I went there to see the exhibit for myself, and I was amazed by the artifacts that were on display there. Throughout this video, you've seen footage of the museum, and I will link the online tour of the exhibit in English from the Rijksmuseum van Oudheden's YouTube channel in the description down below. In the museum, the focus was on the story of Doggerland, the ancient inhabitants, the artifacts, and last but absolutely not least, the people who discovered the artifacts that were on display. Their hard work has been crucial, and I was truly happy to see how they were honored with small stories of the day they discovered the displayed artifact, and almost all of them got a feature in the Doggerland book I bought at the museum. The Doggerland book that you can see here, it's one of my most prized possessions now. I personally would like to thank one of the people who discovered these artifacts, Rick van Bracht. I contacted him a couple days ago to ask for permission to use footage and some photos from a cave hyena tooth that he discovered recently. He was featured in the Doggerland book as well and has been so kind to send me the original high-resolution files. For the past decade he's been searching for fossils and made some incredible finds. I hope he will continue to scour for artifacts for a long time to come, as he does have a keen eye. Doggerland is teaching us that the world as we know it is only temporary. Borders, countries, coastlines, and our way of living will forever keep changing. The way we are treating this planet in modern times is unsustainable, and we are speeding up the natural cycles of the climate, and sea levels will start to rise again in the near future. We need to make changes and at the same time start preparing ourselves to be flexible to an ever-changing climate. We are only a part of the ecosystem on this floating globe in space. We might be at the top of the food chain, but that also leaves us with the responsibility to do and to be better for future generations and for the future of the planet. If you enjoyed watching, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, and click that bell icon if you want to be notified every single time I upload. If you haven't seen my previous videos yet, then click the card in the upper right corner. I've put links in the description down below, and I've always put videos in my end card. I'd also like to thank my patrons, Richard, Barry, Scott, James, Floyd, Von, Rox, Prabhu DC and NGC6543. And I would also like to thank my channel members, Navers Guy, Yellowhammer, Henry Hewitt, Stephen Jenny, John Jiv and Ben Oppenheimer. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Where the landscape was still grassy, open and tundra-like. Of the Dutch A28. People don't know what 28 is.